Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Rotoworld Fantasy Basketball Q&A. I'm Raphielle Johnson, joined as always by Noah Rubin, and you'll probably hear the landscapers in the background at various points throughout this hour, but if you've been around long enough, you know what it is over here. So Noah, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Fun times trying to brace for the winter weather this weekend. Hopefully, being in South Carolina, we don't get cold weather often, so people lose their minds.
Yeah.
And just things just aren't prepared for even like a little bit of cold weather. So if it's going to be all ice, it's going to be like nobody's going to know what to do. So just prepping for that.
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, had an annoying habit when I was younger to kind of laugh at people in the South for not being used to the weather, but it's like the infrastructure really isn't built for that. So yeah, it can get really difficult down there, as you obviously know. So if you're in harm's way, please be safe. Charge up your batteries if you can, set aside some blankets and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case for worst case scenario. So hopefully everything goes well. Excuse me, to that point, Saturday's game between the Hornets and Wizards is now tipping off at noon. So if you have team players from those teams on your rosters, you're going to set it late tonight or early tomorrow morning. Make sure you don't miss out on that. No other changes thus far, but I would not be surprised if we got some others, if this storm is as bad as they say it could be. So,
yeah, definitely. Let's see what. Not too many games. Let's see Sunday. Based on the home games, maybe it won't change too much. I don't know. We'll see.
Possibly, but
that's the one I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's potential, but we'll see.
All right. Well, we've got questions lined up, so let's just get right into them. And James, welcome back, sir. Just traded Ryan Rollins and Peyton Watson for Ivica Zubac's 14-team, 14-category roto, and I need rebounds. Is that good for the second half?
I mean, yeah, it should definitely help your rebounds. It's just a tough package to be trading away. Hate to say this because you've already made the trade, but like Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr.'s out, and Peyton Watson's been incredible. So I probably would have thought they'd be able to get a little bit more than Zubac, but there aren't too many rebounders that are better than Zubac that you'd also be able to get. So I think you're definitely achieving your goal there.
I mean, yeah, Zubac grabbed 19 rebounds last night. Probably won't do that consistently, but you'll get good 10 to 12 boards per night from him. I think the one reason why I'd say it's fine for the second half is that eventually Jokic is going to be back. Peyton and then Cam Johnson. Now, Peyton Watson could, for all we know, remain in the starting lineup. He's played well enough to deserve that, but it's a matter of how many pieces they'd have in that rotation who are capable contributors. So I think I'd be fine with it. We'll see what happens with Milwaukee. Obviously, Rollins has a higher ceiling with Kevin Porter Jr. out, but that team is really scuffled of late too. So, and that's another one where you're looking at the trade deadline in a couple weeks. I don't think Giannis is going anywhere, but I kind of feel like you look at that roster, the only two players are probably untouchable are Giannis and by extension Thanasis, because you probably don't want to trade Thanasis if you want to keep Giannis happy. So anybody else is probably on the table for a trade. So we'll see what happens there. But I think he did fine with this. A lot to give up in the short term, but I think for the second half of the season, I think you'll be all right. All right, Rizzy McGuire, happy Friday to you as well. What do we think of Dyson Daniels' rest of the season and Dynasty outlook?
He's definitely been better without, or at least for this season, without Trae Young on the floor. Just more usage, more opportunities as a playmaker. Really, the assists have been, aside from a couple games here and there, the assists have been very consistently good. Does not hit threes. Just doesn't do that anymore, which is fine. He's never been a great three-point shooter. If he's just like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't shoot too many of these. Okay. The steals, strong still. Everything else is, the scoring's down a little bit. Like the rebounds and assists are up from last season. I think that he's going to be solid for the rest of the year. It's not going to be quite as inflated as it was last year if you're looking at strictly his 9 cat value because he doesn't have this massive lead in the steals race. For Dynasty leagues, I have him ranked 60th. So there's definitely a lot to like here, especially now that Trae Young isn't going to be part of the picture. Like there's more to like about Dyson Daniels' future in Atlanta. It will turn 23 years old soon, but like he's still only 22. There's so much upside there. As long as you're comfortable with him just like not hitting threes.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing for him. Like eventually, he's only, like you said, he's really young still. Who's to say he can't develop a 3-point shot? Like I'm not comparing him directly to Jason Kidd, but for years they said Jason Kidd couldn't shoot. Late in his career, he's knocking down 40% of his threes. So it's something that can be achieved with hard work, and by no means is he a finished product. I think in terms of this season alone, probably like 65 to 80 in terms of where he'd probably be ranked, I think. Not going to be on par with a Jalen Johnson, obviously, or even in Onyeka Okongwu, but I think the tier right beneath those guys could be a good spot for him in terms of his value. So I think there's a lot to like about Dyson Daniels, both in the short term and the long term. All right, Jiggy. Good afternoon to you as well. Would you drop Yeager Dioman or Trae Jones for Kevin Porter Jr., 12-team 9-cat head-to-head? Uses number 4 waiver, and he's in 4th place, top 6 go to the playoffs, and he's got a 7.5 game cushion on 6th place. Currently has Ty Jerome and Jalen Suggs in his 2 IL spots. And let me get to the second part of this. Mm-hmm. You got, is Ty Jerome, is it stashing him even worth it? Ja gets traded and Memphis doesn't receive guards in return. Would you value Ty over Cam Spencer? If nothing changes, which of the two would you value more?
Okay, I don't think I'd drop Yeager Dioman, but I think I could consider dropping Trae Jones now that Josh Giddey's back. Kobe White's been in and out of the lineup all season, so if you're not super confident that he's going to be healthy the rest of the season or that he's going to get moved, which is possible, then you could still have some value in Trae Jones and keeping him around, but he's really only been consistently productive when a starting guard is sidelined. Yeah. And Kevin Porter Jr., we don't really have a great timeline other than he's just not going to play anytime soon, which who knows what that means, but I'm expecting a multi-week absence at least. So there's an argument to be made to drop Trae Jones for Kevin Porter Jr. As far as Ty Jerome and like, is he worth stashing? Unless you want to answer that first question, then we can talk about Ty Jerome versus Cam Spencer.
Well, yeah, I read them together because that was probably going to be my answer to drop Ty Jerome instead of Trae Jones. Like the Trae Jones, he came off the bench, as did Josh Giddey last night, played 27 minutes. So that's encouraging. But yeah, like you said, he's more of a guy where he's going to be most valuable when one of those other guards is out. But I feel a bit more secure in holding on to him than I would Ty Jerome. And I think if you pick up Kevin Porter Jr. and drop Ty Jerome, you can just throw him into an IL spot immediately. So that's why I would do that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we just really don't know too much about Ty Jerome and like what that's going to look like. So yeah, I think maybe it's the riskier move because we just don't know. And like it doesn't seem to me like Ja's going to get traded. So yeah, I think dropping Ty Jerome is probably the better move over dropping Trae Jones. Yeah, I agree with that, and I still don't feel great about stashing Kevin Porter Jr. though. Like, is that where? Like, I think I feel better about that than Ty Jerome, but who knows how long he's going to be out? And based on the way things like rumors have been swirling, who knows what that team's going to look like when he does get healthy? So
yeah. So I guess the other part of my answer would be that I value Cam Spencer over Ty Jerome. I don't know if either one's going to have great value if they hold on the job, but we've seen Cam Spencer fit well into that rotation. Like Noah said, we don't know what Ty Jerome's going to look like in that system because he hasn't played yet. So I think I would prefer Cam Spencer for the rest of the season as well. Daniel, hello to you as well. And happy Friday. James would like to know Ace Bailey, Max Christie, or Jalen Tyson for the second half of the season.
This one is tough. I think I just have to stick with Jalen Tyson, who's been like Max Christie's been red hot recently.
Yep.
So there's a lot to like there. But as far as like second half of the season, like this could just end up being a really hot stretch for Max Christie. He may probably won't be able to stay quite this hot. I feel most confident in Jalen Tyson. I probably have Christie last among this group, just for we're talking about like more as like a stash for your fantasy playoffs. But ride the hot hand if you have him right now. But I'm very excited to see what Ace Bailey does. I've had him as like hey, just stash this guy. He's probably gonna have a strong final month or two of the season, and he's played really well recently. So he's starting to get hot and pick things up. So a lot to like from all three of these guys, really. But I think Tyson feels like the safest option.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Even with guys coming back, he's maintained his place in the rotation, even starting recently. So I like him. I think the question with Christie, will Kyrie Irving play this season? That's something that could, obviously I think I'm of the belief that he probably shouldn't play this season because he's someone who can come out there and win games for them. And for the future of that franchise, their best bet is to roll the dice in this draft lottery, I think. So that's something to watch. And if Kyrie comes back, what's his workload looking like? How much does he try to take over games if he can? And then how does that impact Max Christie? Because he's done more than just be a catch and shoot guy recently. And I worry that if you have Kyrie out there, you have Cooper Flag, heaven forbid they bring back Anthony Davis too. That kind of puts him back in catch and shoot mode, and that can be a difficult spot to provide fantasy value. So I think I'd have him third and an Ace second just because of the upside, and he's played well recently. Career high 25 last night. So and he'll have every opportunity down the stretch for the Jazz. So I go Tyson, Bailey, and Christie for the second half. All right, Jiggy, 12-team 9-cat head-to-head. Are we prioritizing holding Podziemski and Melton over Kuminga, Moody, Post, Buddy Hield, or are they all too much of a headache, and should I just scoop up Justin Champagnie, Sam Hauser, Bryce Sensabaugh, or Max Christie?
For the first part of this question, I definitely think you're still prioritizing Pods and Melton. Kuminga has made a little bit of a case, but now that he's injured, and I just can't imagine that him having a good game and a half is going to make Steve Kerr like, oh, hey, like we're cool now, because it's obviously a two-way thing. Like Kuminga's probably doing like scoring as much as he is, and it's like, see, you should have been playing me the whole time. And I'm sure Steve Kerr doesn't have. Maybe he is like able to just kind of say, hey, I was wrong, but I don't think that fixes things for Kuminga. I still think he wants to be traded. Could go elsewhere. So there's definitely something to like there. But as far as who you should be prioritizing, I feel best about Pods and Melton from the Golden State group. And I don't think, like we just talked about Max Christie, like red hot, sure, ride the hot hand. I think the same thing applies for Sam Hauser. Like he's been on fire from three recently, and they've been getting him shots, and he's been starting. Like there's a lot to like. It's just not as much well-rounded production from Sam Hauser, and he could just stop getting shot attempts at some point. Champagnie, he's fine. I don't think I'd prioritize him over Pods or Melton. Freaking Bryce Sensabaugh. This happens like, I feel like every single season. I know this is his third year in the league.
He went off and then just falls off a cliff.
He misses time. That's what has like an incredible. So I guess this didn't really happen as a rookie because he wasn't really playing for most of the season. But if you just look at him falling off a cliff kind of thing, he had 2 games as a rookie where he scored 22 points back-to-back games, and then had 4 points the next game. Then second season, he had back-to-back games off the bench, scoring 34 and 27, then missed 3 games, and then was pretty the rest of the season. And now this year, was it 95 points?
95 over 3 games. Yeah.
Then missed 2 games, and now comes back, scores 2 points. It's like every time he starts to get going, it's like you're missing time, or it's just not happening anymore. So I don't know. That's just bad luck. But I think of this entire group, I would prioritize Pods and Melton. And then probably Max Christie would be next. But I feel pretty confident in Pods and Melton having that consistent, well-rounded production.
Yeah, the issue with Hauser, in addition to the profile, is that who knows what Joe Mazziel is going to decide on any given week in terms of who's that fifth starter. Like a couple months ago, everybody was talking up Josh Minot. Obviously, he's injured right now, but he'd fallen out of the rotation well before that ankle injury. Then there was Jordan Walsh. Then he fell back in the rotation. Like we've seen moments of Hugo Gonzalez, and now it's Sam Hauser's turn. I think Hauser, as a veteran, probably has the best chance of holding on to that spot, but who knows, So I think you're still prioritizing Podziemski and Melton. In terms of category leagues, which you're clearly competing in, I think I would go Melton over Podziemski if they're both coming off the bench, just because of what Melton can give you defensively. But you can obviously make the case for either of those guys, and those are the two that you should still prioritize here. The commish, hopefully the fantasy advice can warm our spirits today.
Hopefully, man.
Hopefully. Evelyn, welcome back. When Jokic returns, would you rather have a healthy Keegan Murray or Peyton Watson?
I think Peyton Watson. I think there is, I think Peyton Watson should be the better option here. Yeah. I'm interested to see what happens with the lineups because, frankly, I'm not as concerned about Jokic returning. I'm more concerned about what the lineup looks like when Jokic and Christian Brown are playing. Mm-hmm. Does Christian Brown still start, or is it like, hey, we know it's been a slow start to the year for you. We just gave you this contract, but like we're not giving up on you, Christian Brown, but we have to ride the hot hand in Peyton Watson because he's been unreal and keeping like not single-handedly, but doing a lot to keep this team afloat while Jokic is out. So I have to imagine he's still starting and things, maybe his usage goes down, but things only get easier with Jokic. So I'd rather have Peyton Watson. But there is a good bit to like about Keegan Murray, but also not super confident about like what this team's even going to look like when Keegan Murray gets healthy. Because they should be looking to sell at the trade deadline. So I feel better about Peyton Watson. Plus, there shouldn't be any sort of shutdown risk there, as there could be with Keegan Murray because the Kings are towards the bottom of the standings.
Yeah, I feel like the answer to this question should be Murray, but Agreed. You can't assume that because of the reasons that Noah stated. So I think I would still lean Keegan Murray. I feel like Scott Perry is going to be able to make some things happen leading that front office. But it's all about, are they going to stay out of the man's way and let him make a couple moves? Because it's obvious they need to move a couple of those vets. We've heard Sabonis rumors recently. That probably won't impact Keegan Murray directly, more so than like a Levine or DeRozan getting moved. But I think the fewer cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, the better it'll be for him once he's healthy. But, man, it's going to be very difficult to take Peyton Watson out of that starting lineup because of how good he is. I think how good he's been. Now, I think you get Brown back, you get Jokic back, he may be able to stay in there for a bit. Then you get Cameron Johnson back at that point. That may be where the questions truly lie in terms of whether he starts. But, man, I think I would go Peyton Watson, but I don't know. If you put Keegan Murray in a better team situation, I'd probably lean Keegan Murray. So,
yeah, it's Keegan Murray. The player is who I prefer. Yeah. Based on their situations, Peyton Watson should have done enough to earn it that it should be Peyton Watson, but we'll see. I mean, I'm gonna bank on Peyton Watson, but there are some factors here that could make it go the other way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question: would you pay Would you pay Trey Murphy and Austin Reeves for SGA and a punt assist build?
Ooh. Maybe. I think I would do that to get SGA. I think that's definitely worth it to get SGA because maybe Trey Murphy gets traded. I think that they've said that they're not planning to, but
if they trade him, they're getting run out of town, man. Like you can't.
Yeah, but also like they shouldn't trade him, but if
should
some
trade
team comes
someone
and
else.
offers and like offers a 4 first-round pick package, then maybe that is something that they take a look at. And that's really the only thing there. Like Austin Reeves, like unless you're, I mean, the like soft tissue lower body injury, it's a little bit risky there, especially if they are gonna if they do end up rushing him back, like that's always a risk for re-injury. I think that's what happened last time, is he came back a little too quickly, and that's why he's.
Yeah.
Am I getting that wrong? Was it the same injury?
No, he came back. It was the same injury. Like,
yeah, okay.
He sat for like 3 games, came back, and on Christmas suffered a grade 2 strain.
Yeah, so it's I would do this for SGA.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I would not hesitate to make this trade personally. So, all right, have you guys heard any rumors about Jaden Ivey, and why are people stashing him?
So I think that the reason for stashing him is the idea that Detroit could pull off a big trade for Lauri Markkanen, Trey Murphy, Giannis, something where they're shipping out multiple picks and multiple young pieces. Either Jaden Ivey's a part of that, or they've traded like Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, and somebody else. It's opening up minutes to where Jaden Ivey would play more. So I assume that's why people are stashing him, because this isn't like Detroit's going to start resting players and Jaden Ivey is going to, that's not the case. So that would be my assumption. It's not something I'm necessarily banking on, because even if he does play big minutes, I'm not sure he's worth that type of stash.
Yeah, it feels a bit more hopeful than anything like concrete in terms of why people are stashing him. I wouldn't. I think, what did he play the other night? I think he played like 18 minutes. Yeah, 18 minutes off the bench. Dennis Jenkins started with Cade Cunningham out. I think that's really concerning if you're holding on to Jaden Ivey. So, if anything, people are probably hoping that he gets moved, but
yeah,
I don't know if you can bank on that right now. So, all right, please rank for the rest of the season. 10 cat offensive rebounds, 14 team head-to-head. He's got Mamu, Yegor Dioman, Sam Hauser, and Max Christie.
Hauser's last. Probably Mamu first, then Yegor Dioman, then Max Christie. Is that too much of me projecting or hoping that these guys are going to Yegor's going to have a really strong finish of the season versus just looking at what's actually happening with Max Christie? Maybe, because he's been really, really good. It's just the rest of season thing that I just don't believe that Max Christie is going to stay this hot. And if you're saying rest of season, I'm assuming that you care a little bit about right now and more so about your fantasy playoffs. So that's why I'd go Mamu and Yegor a little higher. But man, it's hard to not have Max Christie first with how well he's played.
I think I would go Yegor, then Christie, then Mamu, then Hauser. I have Mamu third just because of the Colin Murray Boyles factor. He's missed a couple games with the thumb injury, but he is questionable, I want to say, for tonight's game in Portland. So he could be back, and even then, we're still waiting to hear what happens with Jakob Poeltl. He went back to Toronto to get further evaluated for his lower back injury. Toronto's clearly in the thick of things for a playoff spot in the East, so they certainly won't be tanking, but you kind of wonder if they'll try to move someone to get a big in. If that happens, then you're a bit more concerned about Murray Boyles and Mamu, but I think for now you're kind of watching the Jakob Poeltl situation, seeing that he isn't healthy. We don't know when he'll be able to play. So I think for that reason, a healthy Colin Murray Boyles would be the priority over Mamu. So I'd have him third instead of second. Yegor first, just because he's starting. Back-to-backs are the lone concern in Brooklyn. And Max Christie, I think there's something to be said for how he's played. And we don't know exactly when or if Kyrie will be back on the floor. That is a concern. But for now, I think you can I'm willing to commit to Max Christie. All right. Daniel has a dynasty question. I have more rostered players than I can keep next season, so trying to up trade via 2-for-1s and 3-for-2s. I've offered Filipowski, Jared Allen, and Herb Jones for Justin Champagnie and Stephon Castle. 14-team, 9-cat keeper. Is this a fair deal? And he's targeting Steph Castle.
You're probably overpaying a touch for Stephon Castle. Like, I like him, and he would be the best player in this deal for Dynasty leagues, I would say. But you're giving up players 2, 3, and 4 in the trade, and Champagnie isn't really in the same tier as any of these guys. So I think you'd be banking pretty heavily on Stephon Castle really, really panning out. Just not super optimistic about that. I'd probably aim a touch higher than Castle if I were going to trade that package. And just let's see, a few players that I have ranked kind of similarly, because I have Castle at 67. So a couple players I have above, like, I mean, you could look at a Dyson Daniels. I mean, like, how young are you trying to go? Like, maybe like a Reed Shepherd. I don't know. Like, Stephon Castle's in a weird range where there's not a ton of players that are like similar situations to him. So you could go more win now for like a Pascal Siakam, Brandon Ingram. You go Nick Claxton, Onyeka Okongwu. I have all those guys ranked just a touch higher than Stephon Castle. And if you want to go even higher than that, I don't know how much higher you'd be able to get, but like a Brandon Miller I have up at 49. That might be stretching it a little bit too much, but don't think it hurts to try, because you're giving up two guys just outside the top 100, and Filipowski and Herb Jones, and Jared Allen I have just inside the top 100. So would be a lot to give up. Or somebody a little bit better than Justin Champagnie, who I have at 236. Maybe trying to go a little bit better there for a second player. That could be an option if you really like Castle.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. All right, Wemby, good afternoon. Hey, Cade is coming back. I need to drop one of Musa Diabate, Jalen Smith, PJ Washington, Sam Hauser, Malik Monk, Brandon Pajemski, 9-cat, 12-team. Who would you drop?
Not dropping Diabate because he's starting. I'm not dropping Pods. Not dropping PJ Washington. So to me, it's between Monk, Hauser, and Jalen Smith. I feel like it's Hauser now that Malik Monk's kind of getting playing time. Jalen Smith's been in and out of the starting lineup. I know Hauser's hot right now, but I just not super confident that he's going to stay the starter for the rest of the season, just because, like you said earlier, and also it's the threes that are carrying his value, which he's been hot. He had the 10 3-point game a couple games ago, and he's hit 5 and 4 the last few games. Been on the floor enough to get a couple other stats here and there, but it's really that he's just hitting shots right now. And if that doesn't continue, you're not getting too much there. So I'd rather have some of the other more well-rounded players.
Yeah, I think I would probably, I don't know, man. Because Malik Monk concerns me too. I know he's playing rotation minutes now, but you've seen that go back and forth as well. I don't understand why you can't play Malik Monk and Keon Ellis, but that's above my pay grade. So, it is what it is. But we'll see if Keon gets moved for the trade deadline too. But I would probably drop Jalen Smith with the understanding that he could end up having increased value if they were to move Vucevic. I don't know if they will, but we'll see what happens. I know I read some rumors about Yves Missi being like a possible target for the Bulls, someone they could potentially want to pick up either at the deadline or during the offseason to help at the center position. But I don't know. I'd probably drop Jalen Smith for now. He'd probably be the one that I would be willing to part ways with, but he did have a good game last night, 17 points, 3 threes, but I don't know, man. Either him or Malik Monk, I think, would be my choices with the potential drops. I think Musa Diabate is going to play enough in Charlotte to be fine, so I don't know. It would help if some of those rotations were a bit more concrete, but It is what it is, man. All right. I'd also like to know, would you trade Josh Giddey for Max Christie, Naz Reid, and Norman Powell? 9-cat, 12 team.
Is this getting Naz Reid? It just says Max Reid. Yeah.
I assumed it could be Naz. Yeah, I'm going to assume it. We'll assume it's Naz for the sake of this argument.
I'm looking
3
at my
for
keyboard
1 is a bit much. Yeah.
M is right to the right of N, and X is right to the right of Z, so it easily could have been supposed to be Naz Reid.
Yeah, it is Naz Reid. Yeah, he just
cool.
It's like 3 for 1 is like, wait a minute, man.
Naz Reid and Norm Powell. You're probably not going to get too many people that would agree with that, but I've been a little bit lower on Josh Giddey, and Naz Reid's been really good recently. I know it's pretty inconsistent, and Norm Powell's been good for most of the year. Definitely an argument for like which categories do you need more help in? Like if you're really needing Josh Giddey's assists, then probably should just stay put. But if you're not in need of those assists quite as much or really the rebounds either, then I think Norm Powell and Naz Reid's a nice package to get.
Yeah, I'd do it, especially with the Tyler Hero injury in Miami. We don't know how long he's going to be out. That medical situation's one. It probably cost him weeks instead of just like a few games. So, yeah, I think that would be even more reason to kind of get Norman Powell if you can do that. So, yeah, it's definitely a trade that I would pursue if I were you as well. Okay, between Malik Monk, Jaden Ivey, and Bub Carrington, who will be the better stash for the trading deadline?
I think Bub. I think Jaden Ivey and Malik Monk are both kind of relying on them getting traded or their teams making a big trade that opens up minutes for them. Whereas Bub, like he's already starting now, and which was kind of a thing that I was thinking could happen after they traded for Trae Young, trade away McCollum. It's Bub starting a good bit of the rest of the season. He's not great, but the shooting has been inconsistent, but he's been able to put up some good numbers. There's definitely more upside there because he's already starting. Whereas the other two, it's like you're waiting on a move that may or may not happen.
Yeah, I'd say Bub. And my question for you, Noah, what do you think? I guess, well, I pretty much know the answer, but Bub Carrington's dynasty value. Is he someone that you kind of drop down your rankings once that trade happened? Because it's pretty much consigned to the bench once Trae Young's healthy, right?
Yeah, I think I did drop him. I have him at 173 right now. So, and honestly, like with what he's done, I'm leaning towards dropping him a little bit more. I don't think that he's, especially now that Trae Young's here, but it's not like Trae Young, okay, like they have him under contract for next year and Bub Carrington's just going to be so good that they're fine to trade him again or let him walk. Like I think Bub Carrington's probably like a nice like reserve player for most of his career, a really good scoring option. He'll start some. I just don't think that he's like this high upside difference maker that should be valued super highly in dynasty leagues and even in redraft leagues beyond probably the rest of the season. So there's value because he's still young and like obviously there's plenty of time for him to change my opinion and perspective, but there's a lot of red flags there about what his value could be long term.
All right. Non-fantasy question. Should the Sixers be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline?
I think they should buy. I really like this is the most like optimistic I've felt about the 76ers, and this is the most okay with them winning I've been. Like usually not a Sixers fan, but like seeing Joel Embiid play well this year, I'm not like as upset as I'm not rooting against him the way I may have been in previous seasons. Not like anything personal, but it's like that's just like a guy you're playing in the playoffs. It's like everyone kind of wrote him off, and so it's cool seeing him playing well. Maxi's awesome. VJ Edgecomb's awesome. There's just a lot to like about the 76ers team, and maybe some people disagree. But I think that they definitely aren't a complete team, but if you're able to have a healthy Embiid, healthy Tyrese Maxey in the playoffs, I don't think anybody in the East is going to really be looking forward to a series with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think adding some more depth to this team could definitely open things up. I don't think they should be selling. I know that there are some people that are going to say, well, Embiid's playing well, they should try and sell him while there's value. But frankly, with his injury history, is anyone going to part with legit assets? Does anyone believe in him as much as the 76ers do? So I don't really see that happening. There's nobody there that, the two players you probably would sell would be Embiid and Paul George. I just don't really see anybody giving up assets for them. So I don't know. The East feels more wide open this year and doesn't feel like Detroit has the best record and has been the best team so far. But I don't think a lot of these playoff teams should be so scared of anybody that's ahead of them in the standings that it's it's not even worth trying to beat them at a 7-game series. So unless something changes over the next couple of weeks where Embiid or Paul George suffers a major setback, I think they should be looking to buy it. Maybe that doesn't mean trading 4 first-round picks to bring in somebody, but trying to improve this team because I think they have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs if they're able to be healthy.
Yeah, maybe if you just want to shore up the bench a bit, I think that would probably be as far as I would go with that group. Because Eric Gordon's pretty much not in the rotation. Can you do something with him? Jared McCain has really struggled. Obviously he hasn't been healthy, but even when he has been healthy this season, he's really struggled. So I think if anything, you're kind of looking to get him untrapped, see if he can give you some value off the bench. But I think they're in a really good spot as currently constructed. Maybe do a little trimming on the outside of that rotation, see if you can get someone who can also give you rotation minutes off the bench. But they've been really good, and there's no reason for them to fear anyone in the East, to be honest with you. So, all right, if you have an IL spot, which one would you prefer? Ty Jerome, Scoot Henderson, or I'm going to assume it's Keegan Murray, 9-cat, 12 team.
You said you're assuming it's Keegan, correct?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty obvious answer too.
Yeah. If it's DeJounte, it's a no. It
could be DeJounte, yeah.
Mm-hmm. If it's DeJounte, if it's Keegan, probably Keegan Murray because I want to say Scoot, but we just have such little information about what's going on there, and I'd rather them not rush his injury and risk further injury. I get looks or Kevin Porter Jr. in the IL. I'd rather have Keegan Murray. Don't know how long Kevin Porter Jr. is going to be out. His play has slipped. I know he started off the season really well, but he hasn't been quite as good. I like Keegan Murray there.
Yeah, if it's Keegan, I take Keegan. If it's DeJounte, I don't think I'd probably just take Kevin Porter Jr. of the options you throw out here. Because we said about Ty Jerome earlier, we don't know about how that fit is going to work out in Memphis, what it's going to look like. Scoot Henderson, you're out this long with a hamstring injury. I'm really concerned in terms of whether or not he'll be back. And then DeJounte's coming off an Achilles tear. So, and they've got Jeremiah Fears. They clearly are going to need to play him quite a bit the rest of the way to see what they have there. So, yeah, I think I would go Kevin Porter Jr. of those 4 options. But if it's Keegan, then, yeah, it's definitely Keegan that you're going to want to stash in the IL spot. All right, Adam has just traded Grayson Allen for Keyshawn George. Is this a good move? He's punting turnovers, 10-team, 9-cat head-to-head.
I like that move. I think Grayson Allen has been good, especially for threes and then some other stuff here and there. But Keyshawn George has more well-rounded production. I like that move.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Because eventually Jalen Green's going to be close to starters minutes, if not playing full-on starters minutes. Probably take a while just because they kind of rushed him back the last time and he ended up re-injuring the hamstring. So, yeah, I would take it. I think you did well there with this trade. Keyshawn, he's going to have really good value the rest of the way, I think. So, all right, Ryan would like to know, ESPN points weekly cap. Are we looking at Karl Anthony Towns or Zion Williamson? Which one do we prefer?
I think I just have to say Karl Anthony Towns. Would be interested to see like what they're averaging, but I'm way more confident in Karl Anthony Towns being more available for the rest of the season, and not like Zion. Not only like the injuries happen, but like a shutdown candidate, like not to maximize their first round pick, but to maximize his health heading into the offseason and maybe his trade value. So yeah, I feel better about Cat.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Even with Cat's recent struggles, I think it's a pretty clear answer that I would prefer Cat. So, okay, should I drop Kel'el Ware or Tari Eason for Isaiah Hartenstein? If yes, which one? And the Rockets have 8 back-to-backs remaining in the season, 10-team non-cat head-to-head with 1 IR spot. And here is his full roster.
Interesting note about the Rockets back-to-backs because that definitely impacts Eason.
Yeah.
Probably yes for Isaiah Hartenstein. I don't know. I Ware's awesome, like very good for fantasy basketball, but it's like the role hasn't been there consistently. Yeah, and I know Isaiah Hartenstein's been injured recently as well, so that makes that tough. But so is Ware, and so is Tari Eason. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a strong opinion? Because I want to say Hartenstein, but then I'm like, do I just ignore the back-to-back aspect and just kind of sit with the fact that Tari Eason will probably miss at least 8 games the rest of the season?
Yeah.
But like he should hopefully be able to stay healthy aside from that. I'm not really banking on any of these guys' health over the other.
I think I'd rather hold on to Ware just because of the Tyler Hero injury.
Fair.
Who knows when Ware will be back, but he seemed to get more opportunities to start and play good minutes when Hero is out. So I would probably go with Kel'el Ware. I would probably hold on to him. I think Eason with the back-to-backs is one concern, and the Thunder really haven't provided many updates on Hartenstein. It's just that he's out. Like, we don't know how long he's going to be out moving forward. So, and this is another soft tissue injury in terms of the calf strain. So I think I would rather hold on to Kel'el Ware in this spot than roll the dice on either Eason or Hartenstein. All right. How do you rank these stashes? Jalen Smith, Day'Ron Sharpe, Kyle Filipowski, Jonathan Kuminga, Justin Champagnie, ESPN Points League with a weekly games cap, and he's got a deep bench.
I don't view Jalen Smith as a stash because I have zero confidence that Chicago is going to trade Vucevic.
Yeah.
If you have reason to believe that, then I would consider him a stash. I just don't. Champagnie, I don't really see a ton of minutes opening up because maybe some at some point, but Washington's too young for them to be benching some of these young guys. Kuminga's too risky to me. It comes down to Sharpe and Filipowski, and I feel more confident in Filipowski. Like, Nurkic has been too productive for them to not trade him or at least sit him down second half of the season. Like we've seen, I'm really like, I feel confident this is the last year of the Jazz tank. I feel confident that next year they're not going to pull the plug. Like the difference between this class and next year's class, like they've done it long enough. Like I think next year's the year, but I think that they pull the plug again this year, and I feel very confident in Filipowski getting like a nice 2-month stretch as a starter. So I'd go Filipowski, then Sharpe, then Kuminga, then Jalen Smith, then Champagnie.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. My one concern with Filipowski is that you also have to account for Isaiah Collier and Walter Clayton Jr. I think Collier is really good with the assists, so there may not be much of a concern with him, but will those guys get Filipowski the ball enough, especially when you have Bryce Sensabaugh in the fold? Not too worried about Cody Williams or Taylor Hendricks in terms of taking usage away from Filipowski, but it's more so those other guards and wings who have shown themselves capable of making some things happen offensively that I'd be a bit concerned about, but I'd still rank him first of these guys. Second, I'll go Day'Ron Sharpe. Second, I'll go Kuminga, actually. Even with the injury, I'm banking on the Warriors having to trade him to strengthen that roster because I don't think him being healthy alone will be enough to help that team contend with no Jimmy Butler. So I kind of feel like he will have to be part of a deal to strengthen that roster. So I'll take him second in hopes that he gets traded. Third will be Day'Ron Sharpe. Fourth will be I'll go Jalen Smith, and fifth Champagnie just because of the number of young wings they have in Washington who are first-round picks. I think they're going to be more of a priority than he is. Like a guy like Will Riley, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of down the stretch here. So I would have him fifth for that reason. All right, Daniel would like to know, is it crazy to drop someone like Noah Clowney or Moses Moody for Jason Tatum in hopes of a late fantasy season return? 10-team, 9-cat head-to-head.
I don't think it'd be crazy to drop Moody. Depends on when your fantasy playoffs are.
Yeah.
If you're doing what I think most people recommend, you're probably ending your season before Tatum even gets a chance to play. I'm still not fully convinced that Jason Tatum plays this season. And if he does, I just can't imagine him getting a nice month and a half of like playing enough where he's producing. It's probably gonna be very limited action, no back-to-backs, plenty of rest, prioritizing the playoffs. So I don't think it's crazy based on some of the stuff that's being said. Just don't think that it's the smartest move. You could probably find someone else better to stash. But I don't think Moody's like you have to hold on to him type of player. So
yeah, those guys certainly aren't untouchable. You know?
Yeah.
Even in a 10-team league. But yeah, I don't know. I think the priority in Boston is going to be make sure Tatum is good to go for mid to late April, and then from their perspective, hopefully May and June if he were to play this season. So they haven't shut the door on it, obviously, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to be back in time for the fantasy playoffs. And if he is, how much is he really going to play? You know, so it's not crazy to drop either of those guys, but I probably would not do it. All right. 12-team ESPN points league. Is DeAnthony Melton a must-roster player?
I think in a points league, I wouldn't call him must roster, but I would definitely try and roster him.
Yeah.
I think that he's been really good recently. And now with Jimmy Butler out, there's just a lot of opportunity there for him.
Mm-hmm. I'll say yes. I'll say he's a must roster. I think back-to-backs are a concern with him, but when he's on the floor, I think he can still give you really good value. Points league, category league, whatever. So, yeah. Okay, James, from his prior question, no problem. Glad we could help, but should I package Max Christie and Jalen Tyson in a 2-for-1 trade? If so, who should I target? I would hold Tyson, personally.
Yeah, like with anything, it's like how good of a player can you get?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you get I don't know. Just looking at ADPs, like, can you get a Trey Murphy? Can you get a Jalen Duren? You probably can't get a Denny Avdia. Can you get a Brandon Miller? I don't know. There's like a nice range there of like trying to find like the healthy middle where like not shooting too high, but also like Brandon Miller doesn't feel like he's good enough to be worth both these guys.
Yeah.
Like you might win that trade, but you also might not. I don't know. Is there anyone else kind of in like could you get Jaren Jackson Jr. or is that shooting way too high?
I mean, if you base it on what we expected from Jaren Jackson Jr., it probably is shooting too high, but what he's actually provided, it probably isn't a wild trade request. I think if you were to do that, the question is, are you punting rebounds or do you have other guys in your roster to provide those? So it's just crazy. We're at a point where Jalen Tyson is someone that you probably shouldn't trade. But
Yeah.
good for him, man. It's been fun to watch. All right, dynasty question. Is Musa Cisse mustache 12 to 14 team 9-cat head-to-head dynasty?
I think the thing with a dynasty league is how many players do you roster? Because if you're looking at like a 250 to 300 player dynasty league, which would be kind of the minimum that I'd recommend for a dynasty league, then probably not. A lot of my dynasty leagues go 400 or 500 players deep, in which case, pretty much everyone on a roster should be rostered. So it kind of depends there. I would have them outside the top 300. So depending on how many players your league rosters.
I think that's a fair way to put it. They still haven't made any movement in terms of like getting him onto a standard deal. He and Ryan Amhart are both question marks in that regard for the rest of the season. So that's something to keep an eye on. From a dynasty standpoint, I don't think he's a mustache guy. Obviously, it depends on how deep your bench is, like Noah said. You can argue for it, but I don't know if he's someone that you're going to absolutely have to hold on to for the long term. So, all right. Shaden Sharp is my lowest ranked player by far, but his scoring and steals are very valuable to my team. Should I just ignore player rankings? And he's punting turnovers.
I think you should ignore player rankings. I think that they tell part of a story, but they can, like you said, it's if you're punting certain categories or if you really need points and steals from a specific player, then ignore the ranking. It's just kind of a vacuum way of saying, hey, this is kind of how these players would stack up against each other. But how often does that actually like result in like just having the most the highest ranked team just based on the culmination of your players doesn't always lead to a fantasy championship, especially with just variation of production week to week. So yes, I wouldn't worry too much about player rankings here if what he's bringing to your team is valuable, which is the beauty of fantasy basketball, because players can be more valuable to one team than another team. The beauty of category leagues, because in points leagues or in like fantasy football, like a player is like, unless you're just like positional scarcity be the only thing there, but it's like players get this many points for this, like, but the variation of like, hey, his scoring and steals could be valuable, but like how much is he hurting you in other categories? Like literally a player can be really good for one team and really bad for another. So there's my little spiel onto all the people that are listening to a live Q&A about fantasy basketball. I'm sure I don't need to give that spiel too, but
your team build is of far greater importance than the rankings. That's what I'd say. Like rankings are good. They can be helpful, but like Noah said, they don't tell the whole story. So if he's providing value in those categories for your team, and as you say, they're very valuable, his production in those categories is very valuable, you can hold on to him. There's no reason to make a decision like that. If you don't feel good about it, look to trade him. I'm sure there's someone who may be able to give you a bit more in terms of other areas that you might need value in. If you do that, if you don't feel comfortable holding on to him, but if he's extremely valuable, I wouldn't worry about the rankings at all. Just keep him, continue to put him in your lineups. All right, Alex, good afternoon. What's your take on Herb Jones the rest of the season, assuming he stays healthy?
I think my take on him for the rest of the season is that I would assume that he doesn't stay healthy for the rest of the season. But if he does, which hopefully he does, he'll give you steals pretty consistently and nothing else very consistently. It'll be the scoring will be up and down, not too much in other categories. So very steals dependent. you're not really in dire need of steals, he's probably not going to be able to provide too much value for your team.
Yeah, his shooting hasn't come along. That's the biggest concern for me. Like, you want him to be like a capable 3-and-D wing. The defense is certainly there, but still has not been able to shoot the ball consistently. And I think that's the big concern for me. So I don't think too highly of him as a fantasy option for the rest of the season, unfortunately. All right. Nick Claxton and Alex Sarr, or Joel Embiid and Ryan Kalkbrenner?
I think Claxton and Sarr. I think it's Embiid's the best player in the trade, which is great to see from him. Sarr's going to play the rest of the season, no doubt in my mind. Claxton's actually been slowing down recently, has he? But he was really good there for a while. I'm going to change my answer, and I might actually say Embiid. And it's strictly for Embiid, not because of Kalkbrenner. Yeah, I'm actually going to flip my answer and say Embiid, because Claxton, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets like the doesn't play much rest of season type of thing. And Sarr's been good, but Embiid gives you a lot more scoring. I guess you could say it depends on what categories you need. But then Kalkbrenner as well, coming off the bench, not giving you too much there, but maybe a little bit. But mostly this is like a 2-for-1 for Embiid, basically, to me.
Yeah. Give me Embiid as well. Like, if he can stay relatively healthy, he's someone who can easily provide you top 10 value, if not higher. We saw what he did last night in terms of the line he put up. I would go Embiid. I think the upside is just too high with him to take the other side of this one. All right. Should we aggressively target West Coast players playing on the West Coast for streaming due to the filming of a new Ice Age movie across half the country?
Oh, Chad.
Shout out to Chad, man.
I like maybe, but I think we were talking about this at the beginning. There's only a couple games that will already be impacted by it. So most of the games should be not impacted, at least impacted much. But yeah, maybe you do take that into consideration if there's two guys you're between and one of them is playing on the West Coast and one of them is playing in the Southeast, and you're like, yeah, like maybe their game does get delayed by a week and I can't afford that. So maybe.
Yeah. I guess you can do that. I wouldn't say aggressively target them, but you can for sure. All right. We got a couple minutes left, so we're going to kind of race through these final questions here. I know I've hesitated to ask, but would you consider reviewing my keeper roster and advising on players I'm overvaluing from a dynasty perspective? And if so, where can I share?
You can either tweet them at me at NoRubin22, or I don't know if my DMs are open, but if you follow me, I'll follow you back and you can DM me your team, and I'm happy to.
All right. Another question for Noah. Would you trade Darius Garland for Matas Buzelis in a dynasty league?
Nope. I value Garland considerably higher. I have Garland at 33 and Buzelis at 93.
All right. Draymond was dropped from my 12-team keeper. Seems senseless to project his value prior to the trade deadline, but what would you say are the odds he comes out of the deadline as someone worth rostering?
I can't imagine a move being made that really impacts Draymond Green, like negatively or positively. I just think that he's just going to keep being who he is. So if he was dropped, and I'd only add him if you feel the need to add him now, not like with the hope that things are going to get better.
All right. There are still a couple, but it kind of repeats throughout the day. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in, ask some good questions. We will be back next Friday, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you're in the winter storms path, please stay warm, please stay healthy, please stay safe, and enjoy your weekend.